You think camping is hard? You wouldn't last a single day during the Ice Age, when ancient Native Americans not only survived, but thrived in conditions that would kill modern humans in hours. These weren't primitive cave dwellers huddled around fires. They were master survivalists who conquered the most brutal climate Earth has seen in human history, armed with nothing but stone tools and unmatched ingenuity. Forget everything you think you know about roughing it in the wilderness. Your weekend camping trip with a $300 sleeping bag, portable stove, and weather app doesn't even scratch the surface of what ancient Native Americans endured for thousands of years. We're talking about surviving in a world where woolly mammoths roamed North America, glaciers covered half the continent, and winter temperatures dropped so low that your breath would freeze before hitting the ground. The last glacial maximum occurred roughly 20,000 years ago, when ice sheets stretched from Canada deep into what's now the United States. Average temperatures were 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit colder than today. That means areas that are barely tolerable in modern winter became death traps where exposed skin would freeze in minutes. Yet, archaeological evidence shows Native Americans not just surviving, but establishing thriving communities throughout these frozen wastelands. Let's start with shelter, something most modern campers take for granted. Ancient Native Americans didn't have REI catalogs or lightweight titanium tent poles. During the Pleistocene epoch, they constructed ingenious winter dwellings that would put modern emergency shelters to shame. In what's now Alaska, they built semi-subterranean houses that took advantage of the Earth's natural insulation. These weren't crude dugouts. They were sophisticated structures with multiple rooms, raised sleeping platforms, and complex ventilati, on systems that prevented carbon monoxide poisoning from heating fires. The Clovis people, dating back 13,000 years, perfected the art of mammoth-bone architecture. When you don't have Home Depot, you use what's available, and nothing was more available than the bones of massive Ice Age animals. Archaeological sites in the Great Plains reveal circular structures made entirely from mammoth bones, with skulls serving as foundation stones and curved tusks forming the framework for hide coverings. These bone houses could shelter families of 15 to 20 people through months of subzero temperatures. But here's where it gets really impressive. These ancient builders understood thermal dynamics better than most modern engineers. They oriented their structures to take advantage of prevailing winds for natural climate control, created airlocks to prevent heat loss, and designed smoke holes that could be adjusted based on weather conditions. The Nenana people of interior Alaska, living 14,000 years ago, built hearths with stone heat reflectors that maximized warmth while minimizing fuel consumption. Your modern space heater wishes it was that efficient. Speaking of fuel, let's talk about fire management, the difference between life and death during the Ice Age. Modern campers panic when their butane lighter runs out of fuel, but ancient Native Americans maintained fires for months without matches, lighters, or even dry tinder. They developed fire-starting techniques so reliable that some groups could create flame in under 30 seconds, using nothing but 2 pieces of wood and plant fiber. The fire bow drill method, perfected by Paleo-Indian groups, involved rotating a wooden spindle against a fireboard to create an ember hot enough to ignite tinder. But the real genius was in their tinder preparation. They processed inner bark from specific trees, dried it to exact moisture content, and stored it in waterproof containers made from animal bladders. Some groups prepared months' worth of tinder during the brief summer season, understanding that fire preparation was as crucial as food storage. Even more remarkable was their understanding of fuel efficiency. Ice Age winters lasted up to 8 months in some regions, meaning groups needed to maintain heat sources for 240 days straight. They developed sophisticated fuel management systems, burning high-calorie materials like animal fat during the coldest periods and switching to slower-burning hardwoods during milder temperatures. Archaeological evidence from Blackwater Draw in New Mexico shows hearths that burned continuously for decades, with ash layers indicating careful fuel rotation and temperature control. Food preservation during the Ice Age required techniques that would make modern preppers jealous. Without refrigeration, though the entire continent was basically one giant freezer, Native Americans developed methods for storing meat that could last entire winters. They created pemmican, a concentrated mixture of dried meat, fat, and berries that provided complete nutrition and could remain edible for years. 1 pound of pemmican contained the caloric equivalent of 4 pounds of fresh meat, making it the ultimate survival food. But they didn't just store food randomly. They engineered sophisticated preservation systems. In permafrost regions, they dug cache pits that remained frozen year-round, creating natural food lockers that could preserve massive quantities of meat. Some cache sites discovered in Alaska contained remains of multiple mammoths, bison, and caribou, representing food stores that could feed entire communities through multiple harsh winters. The Folsom people, living 10,000 years ago, developed communal hunting strategies so effective they could take down megafauna weighing several tons. They didn't just chase animals with spears, they engineered complex hunting systems using natural terrain features. At sites like Bonfire Shelter in Texas, archaeological evidence shows they drove entire herds of bison over cliffs, processing thousands of pounds of meat in single hunting events. This wasn't random violence. It was calculated resource management that ensured survival through the harshest months. Clothing technology during the Ice Age puts modern outdoor gear to shame. Native Americans created multi-layer clothing systems that provided better insulation than today's high-tech winter wear. They understood the principles of moisture management, layering, and wind resistance thousands of years before modern fabric science existed. The outer layer consisted of wind-resistant hides from large animals like bison or mammoth, processed using techniques that made them nearly waterproof while maintaining flexibility. Underneath, they wore layers of fur from smaller animals like rabbits, sewn together with sinew thread that was stronger than modern synthetic materials. The innermost layer often consisted of soft bird down or specially prepared plant fibers that wicked moisture away from the skin. But the real innovation was in their footwear. Ice Age moccasins weren't simple leather slippers. They were engineered survival systems. Multiple layers of insulation, waterproof outer shells, and traction systems made from carved bone or antler provided protection that modern winter boots struggle to match. Some examples found in frozen archaeological sites show wear patterns indicating they could last for years of daily use on frozen ground. The social organization required to survive Ice Age conditions demonstrates intelligence that contradicts every primitive stereotype. These weren't scattered bands of individuals barely scraping by. They were sophisticated societies with complex resource management, trade networks, and survival knowledge passed down through generations. During the worst winter months, multiple family groups would combine into winter villages that could include hundreds of people. This wasn't just for companionship. It was strategic survival planning. Larger groups could maintain bigger fires more efficiently, share food resources during shortages, and provide specialized skills that individual families couldn't sustain alone. Archaeological evidence from sites like Meadowcroft Rock Shelter in Pennsylvania shows continuous occupation spanning thousands of years, indicating permanent winter settlements with sophisticated social structures. These communities developed early warning systems for weather changes that put modern meteorology to shame. They could predict storms days in advance by observing animal behavior, cloud formations, and subtle environmental changes invisible to untrained eyes. They tracked seasonal patterns with such precision that they knew exactly when to begin winter preparations, when to start preserving foods, and when dangerous weather windows would close their opportunities for hunting or gathering. Water procurement during Ice Age winters presented challenges that would defeat most modern survival experts. Surface water sources froze solid for months, yet these ancient peoples never suffered from dehydration. They developed techniques for melting snow efficiently while conserving precious fuel, understood which types of ice produced the cleanest water, and even learned to locate underground springs that remained liquid throughout the winter. Some groups create sophisticated snow-melting systems using heated stones, allowing them to produce large quantities of clean water without wasting fuel on constant fire maintenance. Others developed portable water containers made from animal stomachs that could be worn close to the body to prevent freezing during travel. Tool manufacturing during the Ice Age reached levels of sophistication that modern toolmakers respect and struggle to replicate. Using only stone, bone, wood, and sinew, Native Americans created implements that were sharper than modern steel, more durable than plastic, and more versatile than Swiss Army knives. The Clovis point, a spear-tip design perfected 13,000 years ago, represents one of humanity's greatest technological achievements. These weren't crude stone chips, but precisely engineered projectiles with fluted channels that reduced weight while maintaining strength. Modern attempts to replicate Clovis points using traditional techniques require years of training and often result in inferior products. Master knappers could produce points so sharp they could shave hair, yet strong enough to penetrate mammoth hide. But tools went far beyond hunting implements. They created needles finer than modern sewing equipment, scrapers that could process hides more efficiently than machine tools, and cutting implements that remained sharp longer than steel blades. Some bone needles found in archaeological sites have eyes so small they require magnification to thread, yet were created using only stone tools and patience. Medical knowledge during the Ice Age was surprisingly advanced, necessarily so when the nearest hospital was thousands of years in the future. Archaeological evidence shows these ancient people performed complex medical procedures, understood herbal medicine, and maintained health standards that kept communities functional through months of isolation. Skeletal remains from Ice Age sites show evidence of healed fractures, successful amputations, and even primitive dental work. They understood wound cleaning, infection prevention, and pain management using plant-based medicines. Some groups developed surgical techniques using obsidian blades sharper than modern scalpels, performing procedures that required precise knowledge of anatomy and healing processes. They also understood mental health challenges that come with surviving extreme conditions. Long winter months in small shelters could drive people insane. Yet, archaeological evidence shows these communities maintained social stability for generations. They developed storytelling traditions, music, games, and rituals that provided psychological relief during the darkest months. Cave paintings dating to the Ice Age show evidence of complex cultural activities that served both artistic and therapeutic purposes. Navigation during Ice Age winters required skills that would challenge modern GPS systems. Landmarks disappeared under snow, weather conditions could change visibility to zero, and a wrong turn could mean death in sub-zero temperatures. Yet these ancient peoples maintained trade routes spanning thousands of miles, traveled safely across featureless terrain, and always found their way home. They developed navigation techniques using star positions, wind patterns, snow formation shapes, and subtle environmental clues invisible to untrained observers. Some groups created portable maps using carved bone or wood that showed terrain features, seasonal landmarks, and safe travel routes. These weren't crude drawings, they were sophisticated navigation aids that provided detailed information about distances, elevation changes, and resource locations. Transportation across frozen terrain required innovations that would impress modern engineers. Without roads, vehicles, or domesticated animals, Native Americans developed mobility systems that allowed them to traverse thousands of miles efficiently. They invented snowshoes that distributed weight so effectively that a person could walk across snow that would otherwise swallow them completely. The Ojibwe perfected the bear paw snowshoe for deep powder, while Arctic peoples developed long, narrow designs for wind-packed snow that could cover 30 miles per day without exhaustion. They understood weight distribution, traction principles, and biomechanics thousands of years before these became academic disciplines. Child rearing during the Ice Age presents challenges that make modern parenting look effortless. Imagine raising infants through 8-month winters when crying could attract predators and exposure meant death. Yet, archaeological evidence shows these communities successfully raised children to adulthood at rates that would be respectable even today. They developed sophisticated child protection systems that went beyond basic survival needs. Cradle boards weren't just baby carriers. They were engineered life support systems providing protection, warmth, and mobility during dangerous travel. Multiple layers of padding cushioned against impacts, while carefully designed ventilation prevented overheating or suffocation. Some cradle boards featured adjustable shades to protect against snow blindness and wind, while others included built-in storage compartments for emergency supplies. From the moment children could walk, they learned survival skills through games that taught essential life-saving techniques. 5-year-olds learned to identify animal tracks in snow, distinguish between safe and dangerous ice conditions, and recognize weather patterns that predicted incoming storms. By age 8, children could start fires independently, fashion basic tools, and navigate using natural lull and marks. These weren't harsh training regimens. They were carefully designed educational systems that made learning enjoyable while building essential survival competencies. Adolescent training involved increasingly challenging scenarios that prepared young people for adult responsibilities. Teenagers participated in extended hunting expeditions, learned advanced tool-making techniques, and mastered complex social protocols that maintained community harmony during stressful winter months. Coming-of-age ceremonies tested not just physical endurance, but problem-solving abilities, leadership skills, and emotional resilience under extreme pressure. Communication systems across vast Ice Age distances would challenge modern telecommunications networks. Without radios, phones, or internet, these ancient peoples maintained contact across trade networks, spanning thousands of miles. They developed smoke signal systems so sophisticated they could transmit complex messages over 100-mile distances, using different fire materials and timing patterns to create standardized communication protocols. Runner relay systems could transmit messages faster than horseback travel. Impressive, considering horses weren't available in North America during the Ice Age. Athletic young people trained specifically for long-distance running could cover predetermined routes between settlements, carrying verbal messages, trade goods, and critical information about weather conditions, animal migrations, and potential dangers. Some groups created information networks using natural landmarks, stone cairns, and environmental modifications that informed travelers about resource locations, seasonal changes, and safety warnings. These weren't random symbols, but standardized systems that remained consistent across tribal boundaries and geographic regions, functioning as primitive but effective long-distance information networks. Astronomical knowledge during the Ice Age reached levels that would impress modern astrophysicists. Without telescopes, computers, or written records, Native Americans developed incredibly accurate calendar systems based on stellar observations. They tracked seasonal changes with precision necessary for survival, knowing exactly when to begin winter preparations, when animal migrations would occur, and when weather patterns would shift from survivable to deadly. The medicine wheels found across North America represent sophisticated astronomical observatories that could predict solstices, equinoxes, and other celestial events with accuracy matching modern calculations. These weren't primitive stone circles. They were precision instruments that required advanced mathematical understanding and generations of careful observation to construct and calibrate properly. By now, your complaints about camping without Wi-Fi or a warm shower should sound pretty ridiculous. These ancient Native Americans faced conditions that would kill you in hours, temperatures that would freeze your blood, storms that would bury your campsite under feet of snow, and predators that could tear you apart before you could scream for help. Yet they didn't just survive. They mastered their environment so completely that they thrived for thousands of years. The next time you are struggling to start a campfire with matches and newspaper, or complaining about sleeping on the ground with a 200 sleeping bag, remember that your ancestors conquered ice ages armed with nothing but intelligence, determination, and skills that took lifetimes to perfect. Modern camping isn't roughing it. It's playing survival with cheat codes enabled. The ancient Native Americans who survived the Ice Age weren't primitive. They were the ultimate survivalists, and their achievements make our modern outdoor adventures look like trips to the local park.